Now it's time for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning with our ever consistent and insightful Dr. Constance Ikoku.
And our ever consistent Benga Ashiru, and insightful as well. Good morning, Benga.
Good morning. Always a delight to scratch what's in the offing.
I know. Oh, we're in the office today, Saturday. Normally we're not.
Yeah, well.
We're doing the Christmas roster. That's why we're
indeed.
here. All right. I hope you enjoy what we have for you today. All right. Hello then. Welcome to the program. Let's look at what is shaping the agenda. We'll be kicking off with this day newspaper. Leading most front pages is coverage of the U.S. military airstrike in northwest Nigeria against Islamic State-linked militants, with emphasis on Nigeria providing intelligence and cooperation for the operation. There's debate over how information was communicated to Nigerians and political responses to the strikes. Headlines highlight reactions from political figures urging calm, calls for expanded anti-terror efforts beyond the Sokoto region, and national debates about Nigeria's sovereignty and communication around foreign military action. This is paired with ongoing coverage on tax law implementation and political responses, plus a mix of crime updates, local events, social news, providing a snapshot of both national political tension and everyday life issues in Nigeria. Now, this day leads with Ministers of Information and National Orientation and Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuggar, explaining how the airstrike by the U.S. occurred. They say the U.S. used 16 GPS-guided precision munitions. And former governor of Sokoto State says the Lakurawa terrorist group is a target of the strikes. This is apparently in response to insinuation that this is a religious war being waged against the North. This narrative is emerging because of the strike in Sokoto, which is the seat of the caliphate where the head of all Muslims in Nigeria resides. On the window, federal government says there is no going back on the implementation of the new tax laws on January 1, 2026. Moving on to Daily Independent, the People's Democratic Party publicly criticizes the federal government for poor communication about the strike, claiming citizens learn from foreign sources before official Nigerian announcements. The African Democratic Congress also, on its part, condemned the airstrike, saying foreign assistance is not sustainable. On infrastructure, federal government has secured $1.1 billion financing for a section or section 2 of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project. And there is a piece on religion, why population of worshippers may double at religious centers in 2026. Very interesting. Seems like Nigeria is a capital of worshippers or spiritual people. Leadership newspaper this morning has gone with that airstrike story, reporting anxiety as U.S. vows more airstrikes on terrorist camps in Nigeria. Ex-generals and experts have welcomed the plan, while others like Sheikh Gumi have kicked against it. The presidency has made clarifications to the effect that the strike is targeted at terrorists and is not a religious war. Oyedele speaks on new tax law, saying there's no delay despite controversy. While he was hired to make sure these laws fly, he has to keep talking, as we can see. There's a sports update, AFCON 2025. Nigeria-Tunisia battle for Group C supremacy. Moving on to the Punch newspaper, which reflects even more on Trump's airstrikes, reporting that it has struck fear in northern Nigeria. This comes as Sokoto Kwara residents recount the night of the strike as controversy trails the incident. The Guardian newspaper leads with the same airstrike story and says, "At last, Trump struck." And Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde says voters will be surprised or will surprise elites next elections in 2027. Vanguard has gone with a photo of a fireball from that U.S. airstrike with a caption, "Sokoto, Trump's missiles hit farmland," with a government source quoted as saying that three terrorist camps were hit as well. Saturday's Sun says there's more strike coming to Nigeria as terrified residents flee Sokoto communities. And Tambuwal Middle Belt Forum, Christian Association of Nigeria, orders OK intervention, while northern groups condemn strikes. Let's see what the international papers are saying, kicking off with the Guardian newspaper. UK front pages today focus heavily on domestic pressures, with strong international undertones led by concerns over public services, the economy and security. The Guardian leads with warnings from medical leaders that the NHS is facing a staffing squeeze as overseas doctors and nurses are being deterred by perceived racism, hostility and anti-immigration rhetoric. And President Trump, also in The Guardian, warning that more airstrikes are coming to Nigeria. iNewspaper reports that ministers plan a voluntary paid gap year scheme with the Army for under 25 starting March 2026 to boost defense readiness and provide life skills. Daily Telegraph focuses on a study showing the UK is twice as dependent on overseas trained doctors as other Western countries, prompting calls to expand domestic training and improve pay and address recruitment and retention. Financial Times covers global deal-making topping approximately $4.5 trillion this year, one of the highest levels on record, thanks to cheap finance and cross-border investment trends. And President Zelensky is heading to Florida to discuss crucial peace plans with President Trump. Daily Mirror highlights trade union chief Paul Nowak urging Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer to prioritize tackling the cost of living crisis because voters cite economic pressures as the top issue. It says support for Reform UK could grow if nothing changes. Daily Express reports that more than 8,000 prisoners were released early before Christmas under Labour's policy. This has drawn criticism from opposition politicians. Daily Mail leads with concerns that up to 1 in 15 UK cars may have license plates that evade automatic number plate recognition. This creates security and enforcement risks. Now let's break down what these stories mean for everyday citizens. Returning to this newspaper, a lot that is going on this morning, Wenga, in the news. We have the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of Information and National Orientation, both of them having to come out to get ahead of the news, to explain to Nigerians what is going on. Because as you can see, some are saying that they were not aware. This took Nigeria unawares, but they are trying to say that's not the case. And also, former governor of Sokoto State, this is where this is the location of the first airstrike. So he has jumped into the fray, explaining that this is not about a religious war, that it is being targeted at the Lakurawa terrorist group.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think I was surprised to see that the so-called precision strike landed in Sokoto rather than the areas noted for notorious terrorist activities in those areas. And indeed, according to the criticism that have trailed this communication aspect, indeed, everyone learns head of this from the Trump's Truth social media platform. And I think that the country should have done enough better by having a prompt and a very concise communication structure rather than hearing it from Trump, a foreign power precision strikes social media truth account. So I think the Nigerians could do better. And now, evaluating these precision strikes, some are claiming that it hit a farmland. The federal government is insisting that it was a precision strike that had the full involvement of the federal government. So if it's hitting farmlands, how do we call that a precision strike? So I think that the federal government and the U.S. government, the U.S. military command, Africa command, should do better in addressing some of this collateral that has come with it, that has consequences on national sovereignty, the primacy of the civilian population, and the issue of human dignity according to international law.
I mean, we are seeing a lot of reactions coming out from this. This is a huge fallout, and rightly so, because everyone woke up to this all of a sudden.
Indeed.
There had been that talk and discussion between the U.S. and Nigeria from the time that Nigeria was designated as a country of particular concern. And we had the National Security Advisor and some other government officials make a trip to the U.S. to have discussions with congressmen on what is actually going on and the way forward. At the end of that trip, we were told that Nigeria and the U.S. now have a security framework upon which they'll be working together. And then we woke up to this strike. We've seen quite a number of prominent Northerners speaking about it. For instance, that former Sokoto State Governor, who was also Speaker of the House of Aminu Tambuwal, House of Representatives. And you can see two narratives emerging. There are those that are on the radical path, and there are those that are on let's be calm path, and this is where Tambuwal comes in, and he's taking a middle of the road position, suggesting that this is crunch time. We've battled this for many years, and the general view is that something needs to shift. So there are a couple of things. What the Nigerian government said, it occurred with the Nigerian forces. The view from the streets largely is that this is not the case. Many Nigerians actually believe that this operation was unilateral, and if that is the case, or if that is the perception out there, it carries implications for the perception of the Nigerian government. Perceptions of sovereignty, perceptions of a weak governance, perceptions of a weak president. And that could be damaging to our government, even much more than the security threat itself. And number three is that strategically, this strike signal that Nigerians' terrorism challenge has now reached a level where external powers are willing to act directly, and that is what we are seeing. This may deliver short-term disruption of the terror networks, but it also risks public mistrust and conspiracy narratives and propaganda, which is what we're already seeing. And so the government needs to get ahead of it. We are seeing that Tuggar and Minister of Foreign Information,
Idris,
they are trying to get ahead of it. I don't know if they are succeeding. It doesn't look like they are succeeding. They have to do a lot more, because this is going to portray, or has the potential of portraying, the Nigerian government as weak and compromise. And then you're seeing that narrative from some northern leaders. Let's go to Daily Independent and see more reactions. In the Daily Independent, we have the People's Democratic Party, which has said that the federal government needs to communicate effectively to Nigerians. In a press statement, the People's Democratic Party said it's concerned about a communication structure where foreign powers break the news of security operations in Nigeria before the federal government does. The PDP said Nigerians were notified of the American strike through the verified social media account of President Donald Trump, and that the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a vague statement, vague in quote, according to them, much later about a cooperation. And so they said that this has taken everyone unawares, and this last bit is where the controversy lies. Some believe that the government was not in the know, although it has denied it.
I think that PDP is right to have accused the federal government of adopting an inverted communication approach. But reading the statement coming from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I think that that was a clear communication given, because it highlighted the collateral realities that comes with this precision strike. And it's clearly explained that it's a structured security collaboration between the U.S. government and the Nigerian government. So I'm still trying to imagine or to figure out what the PDP will be expecting. But I support the PDP on the issue of the responsibility of having a prompt communication response system. That I really commend them for really holding the federal government on account of that. So I think next time, this presumed to be the pilot phase of this
Yes.
precision strike coming from the U.S., I want to believe that this will not be the ending. How they would be able to sustain it, it will be very interesting to see.
Actually, Benga, this is the beginning. Remember yesterday we had that guest, Dr. Yahuza kept saying that this is a message, this is a message. This is just a warning. The sense is that more will come. But let's go to Daily Independent again to look at the African Democratic Congress, their own reaction. They're not as forgiving as the PDP. Unlike the PDP, they're not in support of the strike at all. The ADC heavily criticized the strike, saying that resorting to military action on Nigerian soil reflects a failure of governance and raises troubling questions about sovereignty, leadership, and long-term national security. They also said that, that the so-called collaboration, the word used by the government, is not so. They believe that Nigeria should not be reduced to the role of intelligence tip-off in such an operations. Here we now see Nigeria's fault lines emerging. Some people in the north, the ADC, the top hierarchy of that party is from the north, so they are saying completely this is a no-no, we do not support this. What is your thought on that?
I think it's clear and undeniably it's unequivocal that Nigeria faces an existential threat. And this is a threat that has lingered for over 15 years in the country consistently. These terrorist elements, both the ISIS or the Boko Haram or the banditry, they've shown enormous capacity to unleash a reprisal. So I think that this is the way to go. This narrative, even at the UN Security Council 2014, which I was there, this was the conclusion that the way forward is international cooperation and security partnership. So this is now, it's even coming a bit late now, if you ask me. This is the way to go. But I would like to see a collaboration of foreign and local intelligence so that that precision will be concise indeed.
The interesting thing is that for more than 15 years, like you mentioned, the federal government of Nigeria seemed to have failed woefully to protect lives, seemed to have failed woefully to stop the terrorists and the bandits in their tracks. They seem to have been running all over the place, destroying lives. When you talk to a lot of Nigerians, to some, the sense is that, well, even if you say that U.S. has ulterior motives, they have other interests such as minerals and everything, we are in the country, how much of the minerals are we enjoying? Life has become so expensive with the removal of fuel subsidy. Okay, you are a country that is rich in minerals. How has it improved the lives of Nigerians? How have Nigerians enjoyed the natural resources of the country? All the billions of naira and dollars that we are earning from the so-called oil and maybe other minerals, how has that impacted the average citizen? So to some, you can't even travel anymore. Nigeria used to be a wonderful, beautiful country where you can take off at night, travel at night from Lagos to the east or to any part of this country without thinking about being stopped by kidnappers in the middle of the road, without thinking of being attacked, by bandits or terrorists. Now, a lot of people are afraid to move around. So what are you enjoying? If your government cannot protect you, cannot provide that security, what do you lose by inviting foreigners or foreign countries to assist? This is the thinking of some Nigerians. Yeah,
but I think that I want to also, I'm compelled to play the devil's advocate for the ADC now, because even from the words coming from the U.S. Congress that this war cannot be won by military boots alone, we talk about the need to adopt a more non-kinetic approach, the need, why are we politicizing the adoption of state policing? So there is a need for an internal cleansing first before we bring in the foreign support or intervention in addressing this terrorist threat. I think that is very important.
Let's go to Punch newspaper. Trump's Christmas missiles strike fear in northern Nigeria. The paper reports that residents of Sokoto and Kwara recounted moments of fear and confusion after the missiles were fired. The strikes hit the two states and triggered panic. Explosions rocked Jabo in Sokoto State and Offa in Kwara State. No casualties were recorded. Questions were raised about the choice of the location for the strike, as these places are not known to be a base for terrorists, although Tambuwal has explained that a target is Lakurawa. And this is why it is being seen as a symbolic start with more to come. And federal government, of course, is allaying fears of the citizens and says that President Tinubu gave President Trump the go-ahead. Nigerian armed forces alongside the U.S. carried out the strike on ISIS-linked terrorists. It's not targeted at any religious group and was a joint effort. There's more here. Of course, we've mentioned before that Tuggar and Idris have been granting press interviews. Do you think they are succeeding in this campaign? Let me use that word, campaign, to assure Nigerians that Nigeria is in control?
Yeah. Let me start by simply saying that it's difficult to break. It's impossible to break and to get an omelette without breaking an egg. So many of these strikes or many of this response approach will come with a lot of collateral damage. That's the reality. So now the U.S. in international relations, the best way to address insecurity threat is deterrence. So now the question is, does the U.S. strike, precision strike, has that capacity to deter this terrorist element? The answer is clearly yes. And so now, how do we manage it? How do we optimize? How do we sharpen this approach in fighting our terrorist, our insecurity threat? I think that is what the federal government, that is what the Tuggar and Idris ministers should concentrate on how to sharpen, and also the defense team too, led by General Christopher Musa and Minister Bello Matawali, should put heads together to address these concerns.
No matter what they say, people would have their own opinions. Indeed. That's what is going to happen, because this is going to be, it's almost like this is the first time. This is an uncharted territory for Nigeria. You know, having a foreign country, you know, airstrikes within Nigerian soil. And so a lot is going to be coming out from this. It will be unfolding. But let's take Sheikh Gumi's reaction. Sheikh Gumi has asked the federal government to halt this so-called cooperation with America on terrorism. He described it as dangerous to the country's sovereignty and internal cohesion. Gumi said actions must be carried out by what he described as clean and holy hands, not by foreign powers he accused of having a history of stained hands with blood of innocent civilians. Talking about the internal cohesion. Does Nigeria have internal cohesion? We don't.
I'm speechfully speechless that a lead negotiator, we know the billions that goes hand in hand when it comes to negotiating with terrorists. So I wouldn't want to, it's not clear where, but definitely we've seen a man that has this soft conciliatory approach in dealing with terrorist elements. So I'm not surprised with his stance.
He has always advocated not a hard posture on terrorists. He always advocated, you know, talking to them, that their grievances should be listened to, and that they are part of Nigeria and all of that. Well, not everyone agrees with him. Let's just share one international story. We might not have time to discuss it. South Korea, remember that martial law fiasco by former President Yoon Suk Yeol, which plunged the country into crisis. Now, Suk Yeol will face 10 years in jail for obstruction of justice. And then to Japan, Japan approves increase in defense budget amid tension with China. Those were your headlines today.